Hello guys, Tough HD here and welcome back to another video. Now today we are going to be taking a look at a laptop which I was given. Now in a previous video I mentioned there was two. There are two, but I'm going to do two separate videos just because I think one video would be too long. So today we're taking a look at the newest of the two. This is a HP Envy. It's a 17-inch one. I'm not exactly sure what the model is. I believe it's got a 4th generation Core i7 in it. I remember when this was new it cost £1,000 from Curry's PC World. That wasn't even that long ago really. I still remember the day this was bought. If you just heard that, that's a problem with this we'll discuss later. So this belongs to a family member and I went with them to buy it. And today I have been given it because that family member has upgraded to a Dell XPS with a Core i9 in it. So I've been given this and we can take a look at it today. Now unfortunately I don't have the power cord yet because he's lost it. Hopefully he'll find that at some point, and I do not have another one that will fit. But we can just take a look at the exterior of this and maybe have a look inside it and see if there's any upgrade paths for if we can get this thing to work. Now, let's talk about that noise. When I pushed down on this, it made a big clicking noise, and the main problem with this and the reason that it was given to me is because the casing is coming apart. If you can see there, it just comes apart, and when you open the lid, let me do this. If you look there, the whole casing just comes apart. I've had this apart many times trying to fix it for the owner when it was still his current computer, but there was nothing I could do to fix it, and he took it to a repair shop. They said that it wasn't worth fixing because you need to get whole new casing, so he just gave up with this and bought a new one. And it did work like this, it's just the fan got jammed somehow when the casing was all wonky, so the computer was overheating and then crashing, so yeah, he just gave up with it. But let's take a look at it. So here it is, 17 inches, and when you open it the whole casing lifts up. You can push it back together, but then it just pops apart again, so it's not really worth it. So it's 17 inches, it's actually quite a nice display. I think it's 1080p, but I'm not too sure. There's no label on it saying the specs like some older computers have, but there is a label saying Core i7 and one saying NVIDIA GeForce. I'm not exactly sure what the graphics are, but I'll put them on screen now because I will take a look online. There is the Envy logo, and up here is a Beats logo. So it does have Beats speakers in this top grille, I believe. I can't remember if they're any good or not, but being Beats, they're probably not too bad, and considering this was a pretty high-end laptop, I would expect some nice speakers. And this keyboard is actually very nice. The design and the way it feels reminds me a lot of the one on my MacBook Pro. The specs of this are actually fairly similar to a MacBook Pro of the time. Of course, it kind of looks the same. This isn't actually aluminium though, it's just plastic, and the build quality, if you look at all the flex in that lid, it's not too good. Definitely not as good as the MacBooks. You can see why they cost more. Now I believe this has got quite a similar processor to my MacBook Pro in it. I think this has got 8GB of RAM, mine's got 60, and this has got a 1TB hard drive. So if we were going to upgrade it, I suppose upgrading that drive would be the first thing that we did. But it is a very nice machine when it is working, that is. But of course the casing coming apart is stopping it being a fully functioning machine. Now let's take a look at the ports on this thing. On the right hand side we get a microphone and headphone combo jack. I prefer separate ones, but you know, not really something to complain about. 2 USB ports here. These are 3 super speed, so very nice. Even though they're not blue, they are 3.0. We've also got an optical drive here, not something you see very often anymore. And then there is where the power cable goes. I don't have it, so hopefully at some point we can get hold of that and have this thing booted up. Now on this side we have an SD card slot. Take this out. This is for a wireless mouse. There is 2 more USB 3 super speed ports there as well. We've got one of those Ethernet jacks where you've got to pull the bottom out to fit it in because the laptop's too thin to fit a full-size RJ45. They're quite cool, and it's a lot better than having no Ethernet on it at all. I'm glad that they did that on this one. We also get HDMI, then we get cooling vents, as well as a Kensington Lock, which we can't actually get to unless you push the case together. Now, I've just thought about this. If I can get a Kensington Lock to go in there, maybe it'll hold the casing together. That's not something I've ever thought about before. That's something that I may have to try, although I'm not too sure if that will work, because some of the metal and plastic from inside there has cracked and fallen out over time. Now, the owner is adamant that this laptop was never dropped or anything hit on it, but that's the only way I think that this damage could have happened overnight, because one day it was perfectly fine, and the next all the bottom was falling off. So I have no idea how that happened, and I'm going to have to believe him because I've got no evidence to say otherwise. So that is pretty much all we can look at in terms of the exterior. Let's now take a look inside. Okay, so I've got a little bit of a better angle, and all we're going to do is take a look under this hatch here. I'm not going to take the whole thing apart because there's about 30 screws and they're all different sizes. I've done that enough, and there's nothing really that will be revealed by doing that. Now here there is another Beats logo, so I'm assuming there is a speaker under there. Of course, all this is vented to let all the heat out, but we do have to take the battery out. It's got no charge in it, but it's better to be safe, and we've got to take it out anyway because the one screw holding this hatch on is just there. So I'll now take that one screw out, and my screwdriver luckily is just the right size. Yeah, that screw is capped in place so it doesn't go missing. Let's just pull. There we go. Off that comes, and here is the inside. So here is our hard drive. I believe Windows 10 is on it, but the owner wants me to smash up this drive if I can get the computer working so no one can access the data on that. And I can see on here hard drive is 1 terabyte, and it was manufactured on the 28th of September 2013. So this computer is now 7 years old. It does not feel like it has been that long. But let's take a look at what drive we've got in here. We have a Samsung drive. I'm not actually familiar with Samsung drives. This one seems to have been reliable. The computer always works just fine with this drive, and it's not the hard drive's fault that the computer doesn't work now. But of course, hard drives in 2020 as a boot drive, probably not the best idea, but served its purpose well, and a terabyte is not something to be sniffed at. And it looks like we can put another drive in here, so maybe there is RAID support on this computer. Now, there isn't a second SATA cable to plug into the second drive, but looking on the board here, it looks like you could order one online probably and connect it. So it looks like that is something that may be supported, so that's potentially something we could do, I guess, if this computer works. And I guess the only other thing to really look at under here is the RAM. This is Samsung RAM. I think it's 8GB, so 2 4GB sticks. Let me just take a look. Yeah, this is 4GB. I doubt this will focus. There we go, that is the RAM. Samsung 4GB, of course. It is DDR3. And we've got another stick of that in there as well. No, actually, that looks to be different. This bottom RAM seems to be from a different company, and the PCB is a slightly different colour. Yeah, this is different. Ah, this bottom stick is 8GB. This is an 8GB stick, and the Samsung one is a 4GB one. Interesting. I always thought this had 8GB of RAM in it. I'm sure when I searched up the model a while back, it said that this came with 8GB. Now this has been in a repair shop at some point, so maybe they put the wrong RAM back in, maybe they put one of the right ones in and one of the wrong ones. But that is very Interesting, I did not expect to find that. So we've got one Samsung DIMM and then some of this other stuff. That's very interesting. I'm going to now go and find out what the correct amount of RAM is, because that's actually confused me. Okay, so I'm now extremely confused because we've got 12 gigabytes of RAM in here, an 8 and a 4, so that does indeed make 12. I'm not that bad at maths. But the spec sheet I just read online said that this came with 16 gigabytes. Now I always thought it was 8, but apparently all the reviewers and the articles say 16. So I've got no idea how we've ended up with 12 and it's mixed RAM as well. I'm assuming that the repair shop that had this in at some point got the RAM confused and put the wrong stuff back in. Maybe that's one of the reasons the computer stopped performing as well and maybe started crashing. Maybe this is the reason, because you're not really meant to mix RAM, and it is different speeds and it is different capacities and from different manufacturers, so maybe that is part of the problem. That's very interesting. I think I might have an identical stick to the Samsung RAM, so if I can get the charger for this, that will be an interesting thing to try and find out. So maybe the case being broken isn't the problem after all. But this RAM should not be together. It's different. It's very interesting. I'm going to put it back in now because it's just confused me, and this can be something to find out on a different day. So that's the weirdo RAM back in. I'm pushing it back into the same slots, and the Samsung one back in as well. So that was very interesting. I did not expect to find that in here. I've had this open before, but I've just never noticed that. So that is very interesting. Now I guess the only other thing to look at under here is the Wi-Fi card in here. It's an Intel Centrino Wireless N2230. Don't really know what that means. I don't really know much about these things, but I'm assuming that was good at the time, 7 years ago. Really does not seem like it was that long ago, but there we are. I think that is pretty much it. There's not really anything else we can look at without taking the whole thing apart, but I don't really think that will show us much either. It's just a shame that the charger has been misplaced, but I'm going to try and get that either from the person at some point soon, or maybe I'll order one. I think it'll probably be worth it because this is still a pretty decent machine. It's got an i7 4700HQ, I believe, so it's not that bad of a machine if it was all working. But yeah, I think that is it for this video. That was quite interesting for me. I did not know that the RAM was like that. So yeah, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one, which will either be putting the second GTX 760 in the gaming PC, or maybe a video about the other laptop. That one I can turn on because I do have the power cable for, so goodbye.